You're listening to Engage, the podcast for Delta pilots. From the Strike Center, here's your host, Ryan Argenta.
Welcome back to the Engage podcast from the Strike Center. I'm with Eric Nelson, the chairman of the Strike Preparedness Committee, Justin Berg, Cameron Maxwell, Tony Roloff, John Pinkerton, and Ryan Bresnow, all members of the Strike Center. And I want to describe to you this. First of all, I've never had so many people in our very small podcasting studio at the MEC headquarters in Atlanta. And on the 7th floor, just below us, is the Strike Center, which is set up and running. And it is a conglomerate of volunteers. It is a buzz with energy. There is a lot going on down here. I'll tell you, there are no iron fists. There are no swords. There's no boxing gloves in their office. These are people who deeply care and who are deeply concerned for the future of our career, for the Delta pilots. They're one of us, right? They're all volunteers, a lot of effort, a lot of energy. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Thanks for what you do and for supporting us. And welcome to the Engage podcast.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you having us.
Eric, I want to turn to you. You're the chairman of the Strike Preparedness Committee. What does the Strike Preparedness Committee, and more specifically, what does the Strike Center do for the Delta pilots?
When I transitioned this last spring from being a rep to the Strike Committee, the scope of the work was focused on informational picketing, something I was familiar with from my SPC work in TA2. As the company has dragged their feet, it became apparent that it was time to dust off the strike manual. We have been busy modernizing the strike plan, developing a tracking system. So in the unfortunate event that we exhaust the negotiating process and are forced into self-help, we will be ready.
Okay, so zooming out a little bit, a lot of pilots have thought negotiations had been going well. They thought that things were progressing, but we're here. Now the Strike Center is open. We have a strike authorization ballot. We're in the window now. And it's like scratching your head saying, how did we get here? The Railway Labor Act governs how we negotiate and the processes that we can take. And behind the scenes, while the negotiators are at the table negotiating on our behalf, the Strike Preparedness Committee, who's organizing and planning the what ifs, right?
Absolutely.
And this is a step in the process where our negotiators have said, we need leverage at the table because the company's proposals don't meet mustard. And I think it's really important to make this distinction. A yes vote on the strike authorization simply gives the MEC the authorization to call for a strike if and when they deem necessary, if all the other Railway Labor Act measures have been exhausted, right? So this just gives them that authorization in their hip pocket. They may never need to call for a strike, but this gives them that authorization ahead of time. So they have that in advance. Is that all in a nutshell? Make sense?
Absolutely. We're here to support the negotiators.
How did we go from things were progressing pretty well to now we open a strike authorization vote?
Well, there was a point of inflection at the negotiating table, and the negotiators recognized that point of inflection. They'd been anticipating it, and they had this teed up for quite some time.
This is Tony Roloff speaking, and you've been around for quite some time now, right? You've been in this role and others at the MEC.
Yes.
You've seen a lot over your career.
Yes. Specifically, during Contract 2000, we had a very similar situation. There were negotiations going back and forth. They were drawn out for some time. We reached that point of inflection. The negotiators called upon the Strike Committee to authorize the NEC to authorize the strike vote. That went very well for us. The first part is participation rate. At the time, we had high 90 percentile participation rate, which is very strong. And the second part of that is we had 99 percentile of affirmative. That sent a clear message that put some tools in the negotiators' toolbox, and they were able to bring us to the finish line. We have a great negotiating team right now to recognize these points of inflection and the one to call for the strike vote at the right time. You know, what we're looking for here is like we had in 2000, a generational shift in contracts. This is the next time. This is the time right now to capture a generational shift in contracts.
It's pretty amazing because we have such a unified group, and the MEC and the admin have done such a good job preparing for this point, along with the negotiators, researching contracts and the history leading up to negotiations. Going back to TA1 and TA2 back in 2015, it was not a very great TA. It got voted down, and we don't even want to get to that point. The purpose of the strike authorization vote is to not only get leverage from the negotiators, but to show the company that we mean business. We're not here to play around.
I agree. I lived through that as well. And so failed TA1 came out and you look at it and you go, this is not great. I'm a no vote. And then there's that period of ambiguity. There's a little bit of anxiety and some stress. What's going to happen? What sections are they going to open up? When are we going to get the next TA? And there is some stress and anxiety there, some family issues there. Contrast that to where we are now, where, yeah, we're a step in the RLA process. This is a strike authorization vote. And I want to hear from the horse's mouth from Eric Nelson. This is the head honcho of the strike committee. If you vote in favor of a strike authorization, are you voting to go on strike?
No, Ryan. It's more about backing up the negotiators so that we can avoid the pitfalls that we've had in the past and be able to really have a successful outcome and get the proper contract that we deserve.
Let's try this on for size. We know when we vote in favor of a strike authorization, we're saying we don't want to go on strike. We're just sending a message to management. We're supporting our negotiators. We're saying we are unified, Delta management. And the way I look at it is, in the background, your committee is putting together the organization, you're putting together the pieces for that actionable item of an actual strike. And it's happening in the background. You need volunteers, you need the support, you need people to do their part. However, we're not there yet. And so a yes vote or a vote in favor isn't saying, yes, iron fist, I want to go on strike. I'm angry or I'm upset or whatever. That's one thing if you are, and that's okay. I like this analogy. When I bid reserve and I don't want to fly, I know that if I pack my bag and I put my toothbrush in there and my razor and I'm ready to go, that I will not get called. But if I don't pack my bag and I'm out mowing the grass, I'm going to get a phone call. The strike committee is in the background. They are packing our bags. They are crossing the T's and dotting the I's on behalf of the pilot group for that possibility that you may get called on a trip, that we may go to a strike.
What we're doing here is create an infrastructure and a safety net. So if the unfortunate time to where we do have to withdraw our services, there will be a process and an organizational structure to relieve that pressure on individual pilots.
I just want to add that this is something that when we talk about going on strike, it's not a happy conversation. It's really serious. We spend our time in the strike center working to make sure that all of these tasks are done so that we are ready in the event that we're called on to take the pilot group on strike. It's heavy, but when you put it in the perspective of, I, for instance, have 26 years left, and that is a long time to benefit from a contract that we are trying to achieve. We're trying to do everything that we can to help our negotiators get the best deal they can possibly get for all of our careers. That's why we're here doing this.
I was looking through the seniority list and noticed there was a pilot who was going to retire in 2063. That's 41 years from now.
Wow.
So this contract looking forward has to be.
That's a big deal for that pilot. 2063.
2063. I'll be 98 years old.
Perfect.
This is a generational opportunity. This only comes around once in your career.
This is a way for us to keep momentum moving. We can't stress enough how important it is that every pilot participate.
Justin, would we be in this situation? Would the negotiating committee have come to the MEC and come to the Strike Preparedness Committee and asked for the pilot's support through the strike authorization if the company had offered something reasonable or something workable? The answer is no, right? Like, this isn't that Delta gave us a reasonable offer and we're having a temper tantrum and saying, you know what, we're going on strike. We're doing a strike authorization vote because we deserve 40% pay raises. This is lackluster performance throughout our negotiation with the company that we are at this point, right?
Right. And here's one thing. So we don't negotiate in public. The company made a proposal, and this is the answer to that proposal.
I do want to draw attention to our previous episode 18, strike authorization. We are also doing a podcast that'll be coming out next week. That's called Strike Authorization from a Family Perspective. We have some spouses on who have both been through strike and also those who have not. And they go back and forth with some questions and answer questions for you and your family so that you can make a good decision. Again, participation is key. We're not telling you how to vote, but participation is key. And we hope to give you that information that'll allow you to make the vote that's right for you and your family. With that, so you have been on the phone. You've been making over 800 phone calls just in the past few days. Ryan, who are you calling? Who are you reaching out to?
So we've been reaching out to pilots that have just got off probation and that have been around for just a couple of years that haven't been through any kind of negotiating process here at Delta so far.
And what's the vibe? What's the feedback that you're getting from the pilots that you've spoken to so far?
It's been wholeheartedly positive. It's been amazing to reach out to these pilots, and the response was truly positive. They've been ready for this because they've seen and they've read the negotiators' notes and the comms from the union that we've been making progress, but the progress isn't great. It's just taking way too long. But we've been hearing a lot that the pilots have carried them through the pandemic, and they're ready for this. They've been waiting for 3 years now. They're ready to go.
And we're very excited to take the feedback that we got from our pilots and forward it on to the MEC. The best way for pilots to reach out to make their questions and opinions known. DART.
And Justin, you bring up a good point. Can pilots reach out to you and call you?
Absolutely.
And how do they do that?
The main number to this building here, 800 USA Alpha. Call that number and ask for the Strike Center. It'll ring one of the phones, but the DART system, I can't emphasize that enough. We do get the darts when it comes to the Strike Center, and it is such a high visibility way for a pilot to reach out to volunteers and their elected representatives.
And there are opportunities to volunteer. Contact the Strike Center and see where a good fit is.
Excellent plug. What would a volunteer do? What does that look like?
On the most basic level, if you've ever been to a picking event, it's going to look a lot like that.
There are also higher level positions that we have to fill.
Okay, great. So 1-800-USA Alpha, ask for the Strike Center. DART's probably the best way to do it. You can ask your questions. Somebody will reach out to you and answer those questions. We're going to keep doing these podcasts. We know you have questions on what next? What's the RLA process going forward? We did one called Lawyers, Guns, and Money, and they discussed the RLA process. Other questions that come up, explaining the strike authorization vote, how it affects family members. Again, another podcast coming up. Reach back episode 18 to strike authorization called Prioritize This. Keep the feedback coming. Erica, how important is it that you update your contact info that the strike committee can get a hold of you?
It's absolutely essential.
And how do I update my contact info?
If you go to the MEC website, log in and make sure that your contact information is up to date.
Okay. alpa.org/DAL.
Yeah.
Member page.
Another key thing to remember is if you're not getting the emails or if you didn't get your green lanyard, those are indicators that your information is not correct.
One thing you guys do to support those Delta pilots, aside from answering phone calls, and we never want to get to a strike, but if we get to that point, there are resources, there's financial resources available to Delta pilots. What are those that are available?
Alpha National has had this benefit for a long time. There's a stipend that comes if we happen to go on strike.
So if we end up on strike, then there is a monthly stipend available for every pilot on the seniority list.
That's correct.
And in order to qualify, you just have to participate in the process.
So there are resources, there is support out there. Tony, I want to go back to you. If I'm on the fence about voting in favor of or voting period, what do you tell me? You've seen it all.
A very clear answer to that. It comes down to this. The company, they're trying to highlight what divides us. They're trying to pick apart our pilot group, and they're trying to put some fear in there. They're trying to separate us, trying to separate the pilots from their elected representatives. If you look at some of the latest comps by negotiating in public directly to the pilots. We don't do that on this side. And I look at it this way. This strike bill comes down to really just one thing and one thing only. We're going to show how unified we are about what unifies us. And we're going to show that to the company. It really is that simple.
Well said, Tony. Yeah. Supporting your negotiators, supporting each other. We're tired of saying it. You're tired of hearing it, but wear your green lanyard. Don't wear your hat. Show that support. You're sending a message one way or another. Keep up that unity. Keep up the support. You're supporting the negotiators. This is an important step in the process, and we appreciate it. Brian has a comment.
The one thing that we can ask from you all listening to the podcast is to spread the word that the vote's open. The best thing that we hear sometimes is that pilots are out with their families. They're out on vacations doing stuff. They're not reading their emails. They don't know about it. That's the unfortunate part. And being engaged with them and talking to your coworkers, buddies that are Delta pilots and letting them know that the vote's open. You have to tell them how to vote, that the vote's open and that they need to participate.
Talk to your families about it. Normalize this. This is a good conversation to have with your families, and talk with other pilots about it. Hey, have you voted? Well, no, I haven't. Well, why not? Let's talk about it.
You bring up a great point, and I think you guys are going to talk about it in the near future here, but family awareness. is something that we had spent time trying to develop in the committee. I'd like to highlight that we have the family awareness website live at dal.alpa.org/family-awareness.
I'm going to link that to the podcast. So there will be a link to the Delta MEC Family Awareness website and a couple other resources. We'll link it so you don't have to spell it out, but that was very good.
It is really essential that we keep our families in the loop on why we're doing what we're doing. What is so important about this process that we take these steps to show that we're unified? There's a lot of content on this website that spouses, kids, family members of the pilots can look over to see what we're doing. And it is live now.
Awesome. Again, we'll link that. You can go check that out. Cameron, anything you want to add? He's wearing 2 lanyards, by the way. He's very excited.
All I can say is everyone here has been continuing to work hard. We need everyone's help. We need everyone to get out and take care of that strike authorization. And we need that participation and unity.
I've heard sometimes this process can be characterized as a bluff. It will not be a bluff. We show that we're unified. When we show that we're a unified pilot group, we're serious about this. And that's all there is to it.
We're all wearing a green lanyard here, and I'm sure listeners as well. And on one side, it says actions, not words. This strike authorization vote is both. This is taking action to vote to demonstrate to management that we are serious, that we are galvanized and unified together. And it's not just words, because it's backed by a very actionable and very significant event, which would be a strike.
Absolutely.
Around the horn, where do you guys live?
Minnesota,
Detroit,
Tampa,
Minnesota,
Detroit, Michigan.
Not one from Atlanta. These are people who are giving up their lives. They're flying in, they're volunteering. They are giving their support for the Strike Center and the Delta pilots. From the Engage podcast, thanks very much. Seriously,
Thank you.
Wholehearted appreciation.
Thanks, Ryan.
And thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
This has been Engaged, the podcast for Delta pilots. Thanks for listening. My name is Ryan Argenta. Stay safe and keep the rubber on the road.
You're listening to Engage, the podcast for Delta pilots. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast platform, and receive notifications when a new episode is available.